The silence in our family's dining room was deafening. The crystal chandelier cast shadows across their faces as they stared at the small black USB drive I'd placed on the mahogany table. My brother Marcus shifted uncomfortably in his Italian leather chair, the same chair he'd bragged about buying with his successful investments. I'm James Anderson, 32, and until tonight I was the family's designated failure, the quiet one. The responsible one who just couldn't catch a break. At least that's what they thought. Don't be dramatic, James, my mother said, reaching for her wine glass. Your brother needs a fresh start. After everything he's accomplished, he deserves your support. I glanced around the table, my father Robert, still proud in his banking executive suit, my mother Diana, perfectly coiffed as always, my sister Sarah, avoiding eye contact while adjusting her designer watch, and Marcus, 35, the golden child who could do no wrong. Everything he's accomplished, I repeated quietly, pulling out my laptop. Let's talk about those accomplishments. Now isn't the time, Marcus interrupted, his voice sharp. We're here to discuss your beach house. It's sitting empty most of the year anyway. The beach house, my $960,000 sanctuary in Newport Beach, the property I'd bought through years of careful planning and strategic investments. The home they thought I'd lucked into through some tech job. You're right, Marcus, let's discuss the beach house. I opened my laptop, but first let's discuss Pinnacle Investments. The color drained from Marcus's face. Dad's fork clattered against his plate. What about Pinnacle? Sarah asked, suddenly interested. Interesting question. I connected my laptop to the dining room's wall-mounted screen. 3 years ago, Marcus convinced 50 of Dad's highest value banking clients to invest in his revolutionary investment firm. Promised them guaranteed returns of 25% annually. Which he delivered. Mom interjected proudly. Did he? I pulled up the first spreadsheet. These are the actual transaction records from Pinnacle Investments. Notice anything strange about the payment patterns? Dad leaned forward, his banking experience kicking in. These are circular payments, I finished. Classic Ponzi scheme structure. Taking money from new investors to pay the earlier ones, while skimming millions off the top. That's ridiculous. Marcus snarled, but his hands were shaking. Is it? I clicked to the next document. Here's your personal account records. 5 million transferred to offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. Another 3 million converted to cryptocurrency. All while telling your investors their money was going into stable blue-chip stocks. The room erupted in chaos. Mom was crying, Dad was demanding explanations, and Sarah was frantically texting, probably warning her husband, who'd invested heavily in Pinnacle. You've been investigating me. Marcus stood up, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. What gives you the right? I stayed calm, remembering the day 3 years ago when I'd first suspected something was wrong. I'd been working as a forensic financial analyst, my boring tech job as they called it, when I'd noticed the patterns in Marcus's company structure. I gave myself the right when you started destroying lives, I replied. Mr. Thompson, remember him? Dad's friend for 30 years. He invested his entire retirement fund with you. He's working as a night security guard now at 68. Dad's face crumpled. Harold Thompson. And the Wilsons. And the Patels. And 27 other families who trusted the Anderson name. I pulled up more documents. All their money gone. Well, not gone. Just sitting in Marcus's hidden accounts while he plays the successful entrepreneur. It's more complicated than that. Marcus protested, but his voice was weak. Is it? Like how you complicated things for Mrs. Chen when she asked about her investment last month. I played the recording of Marcus threatening an elderly widow who demanded her money back. Mom's wine glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor. Nobody moved to clean it up. The SEC has everything. I continued. They're announcing the investigation tomorrow morning. But I wanted you to hear it from me first, especially since you're so concerned about my beach house. James' dad's voice was barely a whisper. How long have you known? Long enough to document everything. Long enough to help the FBI trace every transaction. Long enough to make sure all the victims will get their money back. From those offshore accounts you thought were untraceable, Marcus. Sarah finally spoke up. Thomas invested $200,000 with Pinnacle last year. Your husband's money will be returned, I assured her. I made sure of that. Unlike some people, I actually believe in protecting family. Marcus lunged across the table, but Dad caught his arm. Don't. Dad warned, his voice heavy with resignation. You're bluffing, Marcus said desperately. You couldn't have accessed those accounts. The encryption was good. I nodded. But not good enough. Did you really think I was just a low-level tech worker? I've been heading the FBI's Financial Crimes Cyber Division for the past 5 years. More silence. More shocked faces. That's impossible, Mom whispered. You live in that tiny apartment. I lived where I needed to for the investigation. I corrected her. The beach house was necessary too, to track certain transactions through the Newport area. Everything I've done for the past 3 years has been building this case. I stood up, gathering my things. The FBI will be here in about an hour. I suggest you all cooperate fully. Dad, your bank will be cleared of involvement. I've documented that you had no knowledge of Marcus's schemes. Sarah, like I said, Thomas's investment will be returned. James, wait. Mom called as I headed for the door. We're family. We can fix this. I turned back one last time. Family comes first, right? That's what you always said. Funny how that only applied when you wanted something from me. Please, Marcus tried one last time. I'll return everything. We can make this right. It's already right, I replied. The victims will get justice. The truth will come out. And my beach house, it's being donated to a nonprofit that helps elderly fraud victims rebuild their lives. I think Mrs. Thompson will enjoy using it for their support group meetings. I left them there, surrounded by their shattered illusions and broken family bonds. As I drove away, my phone buzzed with a message from the FBI team. In position. Moving in 45 minutes. I turned off my phone. They didn't need me for this part. My work was done. The next morning, as I sat in my real home, a modest but comfortable house in a quiet neighborhood, I watched the news break about Pinnacle Investments. Marcus's face flashed across the screen as reporters detailed the scheme's collapse. My name wasn't mentioned. I'd made sure of that. My actual boss at the FBI, Director Sullivan, called to congratulate me. Hell of a case, Anderson. Taking down your own brother. That couldn't have been easy. Family should hold each other accountable, I replied. That's what coming first really means. As I hung up, I looked at the framed photo on my wall. The only family picture I kept. It was from 20 years ago, before Marcus's greed, before the family dynamics twisted into something toxic. Sometimes I wondered if that family had ever been real, or if I'd just wanted to believe in it so badly that I'd missed the signs. My phone buzzed again, a message from Mrs. Thompson. Thank you for everything. Harold finally slept through the night. That was worth more than any beach house. That was what family should mean. Looking out my window at the quiet street, I thought about legacy. Not the kind Marcus had chased, built on lies and stolen dreams, but the kind that comes from standing up for what's right, even when it costs you everything you thought you wanted. The beach house keys sat on my counter, ready to be handed over to the nonprofit. Beside them lay the acceptance letter for my next assignment, leading a new task force on family-based financial crimes. Life has a sense of irony sometimes. My sister Sarah texted, "Can we talk? Really talk? Maybe some family bonds could be rebuilt. The honest ones, the ones based on truth rather than expectations and appearances. Those were worth saving, but for now I had work to do. Other families to protect. Other Marcuses to stop. Because sometimes protecting family means protecting everyone else from them." The morning after Marcus's arrest, I woke up to 47 missed calls and over 100 text messages. Most were from family members I hadn't heard from in years, suddenly interested in reconnecting. Funny how a front-page fraud scandal changes people's priorities. I scrolled through them while making coffee in my kitchen. The news headlines were everywhere. Pinnacle Investments CEO arrested in $50 million fraud scheme. Prominent banker's son faces 30 years for massive Ponzi operation. Anderson family empire crumbles, a legacy of lies. My secure work phone buzzed. Director Sullivan again. "Anderson, we need you in the office. Your father's here." I nearly dropped my coffee. Dad came to the FBI. Voluntarily. Says he has information about other schemes. You might want to handle this one personally. 20 minutes later, I walked into interview room 3. Dad sat there, looking decades older than he had at dinner last night. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his normally perfect hair disheveled. "James," he said, standing up. Then noticing my expression, he sat back down. "Agent Anderson, I suppose that's more appropriate now. I took the seat across from him, setting up the recording equipment. This is an official interview, Dad. Anything you say can and will be used, yes. He managed a weak smile. I taught you to be thorough, didn't I? At least I did something right. State your name for the record. Robert James Anderson, CEO of First Capital Banking. He leaned forward, and I'm here to confess. My training kicked in, keeping my face neutral despite the shock. Proceed. 15 years ago, Marcus came to me with his first investment scheme. Nothing big, just a small real estate flip that seemed a little too good to be true. I helped him hide the paperwork. I remembered that time, Marcus's first big success that had earned him Mom's endless praise and Dad's proud smiles. It was small things at first, Dad continued. Fudged numbers, shifted accounts. I told myself I was protecting him, teaching him the business. He laughed bitterly. I created this monster, didn't I? Keep going. 3 years ago, when he started Pinnacle, I suspected something was wrong. The returns were impossible, the client list was too perfect. But by then, he rubbed his face. By then I was in too deep. If he went down, I'd go down too. So you chose to let him keep stealing. I chose wrong. Dad pulled out a USB drive, similar to mine from last night. This has everything. Every transaction I helped hide. Every client I steered his way. Every regulation I helped him bypass. I stared at the drive. You understand what this means? It means I'm going to prison. Dad's voice was steady now. As I should. But it also means those families might get more of their money back. The hidden accounts I helped set up. There's another 30 million there. Just then my phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Dad told me everything. I'm at Mom's. You need to come. Now. We're not finished here, I told Dad, standing up. I know. He looked straight at me for the first time. I'm proud of you, James. Not for bringing us down, though God knows we deserved it. I'm proud because you became a better man than I ever was. I left him with the investigation team and drove to my childhood home. The grand house looked different now, less imposing, more like a facade hiding ugly truths. Sarah met me at the door, her eyes red. Mom's in the study. You need to see this. I found Mom surrounded by papers, her perfect appearance completely undone. When she saw me, she didn't speak, just handed me a letter. It was from Marcus, dated 2 years ago. Mom, James is investigating me. I've seen him around my office. He knows something. We need to discredit him before he ruins everything. Maybe another mental health episodes like in college. Love, Marcus. You faked my breakdown in college. The pieces suddenly fit. The mysterious calls to my professors. The concerned family interventions. The therapy sessions where everyone insisted I was paranoid. I thought I was protecting him, Mom whispered. He said you were jealous, that you couldn't handle his success. I believed him because it was easier than admitting what he really was. Sarah spoke up from the doorway. Tell him the rest, Mom. Mom pulled out more letters. Years of correspondence between her and Marcus, documenting their systematic campaign to undermine me. Every time I'd gotten close to discovering something, they'd interfered. The job offer in Seattle that fell through. I asked, though I already knew. Marcus called them, Sarah answered. Told them you were unstable. Mom provided the fake medical records. I should have felt angry, but all I felt was tired. Why are you showing me this now? Because it's time for truth, Mom said. All of it. Your father's not the only one going to prison, James. I helped Marcus launder money through my charity foundation. Sarah's husband, Thomas. He wasn't just an investor. He was helping Marcus recruit victims. Sarah started crying. I didn't know at first. When I found out, Thomas threatened to take the kids if I told anyone. But now everything falls apart. I finished. Not everything. Mom stood up, straightening her shoulders. You're still standing, the only honest one among us. So I'm giving you this. She handed me another file. Inside was the deed to the family estate, transfer papers, account details, everything I own, she explained. Use it to help make things right. It won't fix what we did to you, but maybe it can help fix what we did to others. I looked at these broken people, who had once been my proud, perfect family. You know I have to turn all of this over to the FBI. We know, Sarah nodded. It's time we all paid for our choices. My phone buzzed again. Director Sullivan. Anderson, it's bigger than we thought. We need you to head the expanded investigation. Multiple banks involved. I looked at Mom and Sarah. I have to go. We know that too. Mom said quietly. Do what you have to do. What you always tried to do. The right thing. As I drove to the office, I thought about family legacies. Mom's charity foundation, Dad's banking empire, Marcus's investment firm, all built on lies. But maybe, just maybe, something true could rise from the ashes. My team was waiting when I arrived. Sir, my deputy said, you should know, this could lead back to some major political figures. It's not just your family anymore. I nodded, putting on my FBI jacket. Then let's get to work. Everyone deserves to know the truth, no matter who it hurts. The investigation was just beginning. But at least now, for the first time in years, I could face it without looking over my shoulder for family shadows. Sometimes the biggest frauds aren't the ones you can track through bank accounts. Sometimes they're the lies we tell ourselves about the people we love. 3 weeks after my family's collapse, I stood in front of the First Capital Bank building, watching another wave of arrests. The investigation had expanded beyond my family, revealing a network of fraud that stretched across multiple financial institutions. My phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Thompson, Channel 7 News. Now, I pulled up the live stream on my phone. Marcus was giving his first interview from prison, dressed in an orange jumpsuit instead of his usual designer suits. I was manipulated, he was saying, tears in his eyes. My younger brother, an FBI agent, set me up. He was always jealous. I shut it off. Same old Marcus, still trying to spin stories. Director Sullivan approached, holding a thick file. Your brother's interview is causing waves. But we've got bigger problems. Look at this. Inside the file were documents linking Thomas, my brother-in-law, to 3 other investment firms running similar schemes. The victim count had jumped from 50 to over 300. How's Sarah handling it? Sullivan asked. She's cooperating. Turned over everything she knew about Thomas's operations. She's with the kids at her friend's place. And your parents? I thought about Dad sitting in his holding cell, methodically documenting every fraudulent transaction he'd ever overseen. Mom, under house arrest, working with prosecutors to unravel her charity foundation's money laundering operation. They're facing reality, I answered. Finally. My team had set up command center in what used to be Marcus's executive office at Pinnacle Investments. The irony wasn't lost on me as I walked through the glass doors, past the empty desks where his employees had once helped him steal millions. Agent Martinez, my lead investigator, met me with fresh coffee. Boss, you need to see this. We found something in your mother's foundation records. She pulled up a spreadsheet on the massive screen. At first glance, it looked like normal charitable donations. But then I saw the pattern. These organizations, I pointed to a recurring list. They're all shell companies. Martinez finished. Set up by Thomas. But here's the kicker, they're linked to 3 state senators and a federal judge. My phone rang. Sarah, James. Thomas just called from jail. He's threatening to reveal everything about everyone unless we help him. He says he has proof of judicial bribes, political payoffs. Let him, I replied. That's exactly what we need. The next few hours were a blur of activity. Search warrants, arrests, more evidence flooding in. Thomas, trying to save himself, had unwittingly given us the key to unraveling a corruption network that went far beyond our family. At sunset, I took a break, driving to the beach house, now being converted into the victim support center. Mrs. Thompson was there, helping set up chairs for their first support group meeting. James, she hugged me tight. Or should I say Agent Anderson? Just James is fine. I looked around the space. How's it coming along? It's healing, she smiled. Not just the place, the people. Having somewhere to share their stories, to know they're not alone, it matters. A familiar voice came from behind me. It really does. I turned to find Sarah, looking tired but determined. The kids are with Mom's sister, she said before I could ask. I came to help. If that's okay. Mrs. Thompson answered before I could. Of course it's okay. Everyone here has a story of trust betrayed, but we're all learning to rebuild. Sarah joined the volunteers setting up the space, while I stepped out onto the deck. The ocean stretched endless and dark, reminiscent of all the secrets we'd uncovered. And all those still hidden. My secure phone buzzed, a message from Dad's attorney. He's ready to testify about the judicial bribes. All of them. Another text followed, from Mom's lawyer. Mrs. Anderson has provided names of all politicians involved with foundation fraud, requesting witness protection. The wave was getting bigger. Tomorrow's headlines would rock the city's power structure. Senators, judges, bankers, all falling like dominoes. Sarah found me still on the deck an hour later. "Remember when we were kids?" she asked. "How Dad would bring us here, talk about building a family legacy." "He built one," I replied. "Just not the kind he meant to." "Maybe we can build a different one," she suggested. "Something real this time. Something that helps people instead of hurting them." Inside, Miss Thompson was leading the first support group session. Victims sharing stories, finding strength in community. The beach house, once a symbol of our family's facade, was becoming something authentic. My phone buzzed again. "Director Sullivan. Congressional committee wants you to testify next week. This goes higher than we thought." Sarah read the message over my shoulder. "Are you going to do it? Someone has to tell the truth. Even if it brings down the whole system. Especially then." The sun had set completely now, leaving us in darkness broken only by the lights from inside the house. Voices drifted out, people sharing, healing, rebuilding. "Marcus called me from prison," Sarah said quietly. "Wanted me to help him write a book. The FBI's vendetta. How my brother destroyed our family." I couldn't help but laugh. "What did you tell him?" "I told him to write the truth for once. But we both know he won't." Agent Martinez called. "Boss, we found the offshore accounts Thomas mentioned. It's big. Really big." "How big?" "Billions. Connected to major political campaigns, international banks." I looked at Sarah. "Still want to help rebuild?" She squared her shoulders. "Where do you need me?" "Help Mrs. Thompson here. These people need support more than ever once this next wave hits." The investigation was growing beyond our family drama into something that would shake the foundations of power in our city. Maybe the country. But standing there watching victims help each other heal, I knew this was where it really mattered. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Mom. "I'm sorry. For everything, do what you need to do. Make it right." Sarah and I went back inside, where Mrs. Thompson was closing the first session. People were hugging, exchanging numbers, finding strength in their shared experience. Tomorrow would bring more revelations, more arrests, more shockwaves through the corridors of power. But tonight in this house by the sea, something honest was finally taking root. 6 months after the initial arrests, I stood before the Congressional Hearing Committee, concluding my testimony about what had become known as the Anderson Network, one of the largest financial fraud exposures in recent history. "And you confirm that these operations extended to 14 states, involving 37 public officials?" the committee chair asked. "Yes, sir. The total fraud amount exceeded $4.2 billion. I closed my folder, all documented and verified. Afterward, outside the Capitol building, reporters swarmed with questions. I gave them the same answer I'd been giving for months. The investigation speaks for itself. My phone buzzed, a text from Sarah, with a photo of the Beach House Support Center. They were hosting their 100th session today. The picture showed Mrs. Thompson cutting a ribbon for their new financial education wing, funded by the recovered assets from Mom's foundation. Speaking of Mom, she'd received her sentence last week, 8 years, reduced for cooperation. Dad got 12. Marcus was serving 25, still maintaining his innocence, despite the mountains of evidence. Thomas had turned state's witness, earning a reduced sentence while exposing the political corruption network. I drove straight from D.C. to the beach house. The sunset painted the ocean golden, just like those evenings years ago, when our family had seemed perfect on the surface. Sarah met me at the door, looking more like herself than she had in years. "Saw you on TV," she said, hugging me. "You did good." Inside, the support center was buzzing with activity. Former victims had become counselors, helping new arrivals navigate the aftermath of financial fraud. Mrs. Thompson had developed a program specifically for families torn apart by financial crimes. "Agent Anderson," she called out, waving me over. "Perfect timing. Would you share your perspective with the group?" I looked at the faces in the circle. People rebuilding their lives, finding strength in truth rather than facades. What would you like to know? An elderly man spoke up. How do you move forward? When the people who hurt you were family. I thought about the last 6 months, the investigations, the revelations, the painful truths. You build something new. I said, something honest. Sarah joined the circle, adding, and you remember that family isn't just about blood, it's about trust. My phone buzzed one last time. Director Sullivan, it's official. You're being promoted to head the new Financial Crimes Family Task Force. The Anderson Network case is changing how we fight corruption. Looking around the room, I realized that sometimes the biggest victories come from complete defeats. Our family name now stood for something different. A warning about corruption. Yes, but also a story about redemption through truth. Mrs. Thompson announced they were expanding the support center to 3 more locations along the coast. Thanks to the recovered funds, she explained, we can help more families heal. As the session ended, Sarah and I walked on the beach. Mom asked if you'll visit. She said quietly. Eventually I replied, when I'm ready. And Marcus, he made his choice. He's still making it. The waves crash steadily, eternal and unchanging, unlike the human dramas that played out before them. 6 months ago, this beach house had been a symbol of our family's lies. Now it was a beacon of truth and recovery. What happens next? Sarah asked. I thought about the new task force, the expanding support network, the ongoing ripples of change our family's collapse had triggered. We keep building, I said, something real this time. As we walked back to the support center, I saw Miss Thompson posting a new sign. Welcome to the Anderson Center for Financial Fraud Recovery, where truth heals. Sometimes I realized, the best legacy comes from admitting your worst mistakes. And sometimes, family isn't what you're born into. It's what you choose to build from the ashes of what burns down. The sun set on another day of truth-telling and healing, as the waves kept their eternal rhythm, washing away the old and making way for the new. The end.